Hello, welcome to Sindhi Boli Otaka. In this episode, I review a beautiful book that tells the story of a Sindhi family that is uprooted from its ancestral land of Sindh. The partition of India remains one of the tragic legacies of British imperialism. The cost of independence of India included immeasurable human suffering, loss of homeland, existential threat to the language, life, and culture of Sindhi people, particularly Hindu Sindhis, who were in minority in Sindh before the partition. The book tells the story of a resilient community that survived the chaotic migration from Sindh, which became part of newly created Pakistan in 1947. The title of the book is Tryst with Koki. It is a novel, one could say historical fiction type story by Dr Subhadra Anand. The title is a play on Jawaharlal Nehru's famous speech to the Constituent Assembly on the day before India became independent on 15th August 1947. Nehru's words went like this, I quote, long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny. Now the time has come when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. End of quote by Pandit Nehru on 14th August 1947. If you do not understand Sindhi language, then it is worth understanding that Koki is a Sindhi bread. It is flat, somewhat thick bread, thicker than normal roti or chapati, and is made from wheat flour and other ingredients. The writer actually provides the recipe at the end of the book. However, this book is not about Sindhi cuisine, although I must say that this tryst with Koki is a sumptuous literary treat. The book will quench your thirst for knowledge about Sindhis, particularly about the post-partition trauma of leaving one's ancestral land and restarting life from zero. At one level, the Koki is metaphor for the character of the heroine of the novel, Sheila, and of the Sindhi community at another level. Let me say a few words about a beautiful gate that is shown on the cover of the book. On the iron gate, there are two unicorn seals that decorate the gate. Unicorn is a mythical horse-like creature with one horn on its forehead. It is an animal that is also Scotland's national animal, signifying fiercely independent and fighting spirit of the Scottish people. The unicorn seal has a heartwarming moment at the end of the novel that I leave for you to read in the novel rather than spoil the joy of experiencing a lovely emotion that spiritually connects to childhood friends at the end of the novel. Behind this gate are two huge bungalows in which Syed and Advani families live harmoniously. The religious difference between the Muslim family of Sayyids and the Hindu family of Advanis are no barrier to the common Sindhi language, culture, and the Sufi traditions that the two families share. The harmonious, happy, caring, sharing, and loving relationship among the members of the two families is beautifully narrated. Now imagine an 18-year-old girl living happily in a well-to-do family. She lives in a posh locality of Karachi. She has two younger brothers and loving parents. She goes to a very good school, she has good friends, and she is a confident young person. Suddenly, the life takes turn. The partition of India happens. She has to live with her mother and two siblings on a steamer ship from Karachi to Mumbai, Bombay in those days. She arrives at Bombay port, and as she lands, she is informed that her father, Prakash Advani, who had stayed behind in Karachi to sort out business and other things, and was going to join his family later, has been murdered. On hearing this, Sheila's mother faints. The girl finds that her mother is pregnant. This is how Sheila's life in India after partition starts. She is only 18 and is left to look after unwell pregnant mother with two young brothers. How does an 18-year-old girl face up such situation? Well, this is a story of Sheila Advani and her family's struggles, trials and triumphs, tragedies and joys, ups and downs of living and flourishing against all odds. The story is narrated into three books, with each book containing various chapters. The plot of the book unfolds over a 57-year period and spans three generations of Sindhis, leading from the year 1948 to about end of 2004. Each of the characters in the story shows the author's grip on the reality. Before Advani family bids farewell to their beautiful home, loving neighbors and relatives in Karachi, we read the debates about partition. Muslims and Hindus are torn apart by the likely loss of Sindhiyat, Sindhi way of living, that defies religious boundaries and that binds the two communities in common threads of Sindhi language, Sufism, food, and drinks nourished by the fertile valleys of Sindhu as well as fruits of dry lands. The melodious narration of Shah, Sachal, and Sami's poetry by Sant Kanwar Ram and thousands of folk singers that visited dargahs, tikanas, mandirs, and shrines of Julelal or Zindapir. Both the Sindhi Muslims and Sindhi Hindus were worried. The Hindu Sindhis worried about losing everything they had, life, livelihood, and land, while Muslims were worried about arrival of other Muslims who were orthodox, did not speak Sindhi, and did not share Sindhiyat. But the inevitable happens. Hundreds of thousands of Hindu Sindhis started leaving Sindh, and Prakash Advani's family was one of them. Reluctantly, Prakash Advani put his children and his pregnant wife on a steamer ship from Karachi port to Bombay as it was known before it became Mumbai. Sheila's extrovert and compassionate nature combined with fine culture endeared her to many people on the ship, some of whom would play a very important role in her life later. Book 2 is all about dramatic mix of unexpected and expected events and choices that unsettled families had to go through over next several decades. Life in a refugee camp, sharing leftover army barracks and shanty colonies was never going to be easy. Sheila's challenges of taking care of her unwell mother became catastrophic when her mother delivered a baby girl and died. Suddenly, Sheila becomes head of a displaced family made up of two younger brothers and a newly born baby. Anyone could have given up on life at that time. However, like the resilient Kokis that sustained the family during their long sea journey, Sheila soldiers on with support from the friends she had won over and sets up a home based business to make biscuits and name the venture Madhuri Biscuits in honor of her mother. This enterprising spirit and self reliance in the harshest conditions shines through Sheila throughout the story and symbolizes Sindhi community as a whole. I was born and grew up in another refugee camp of Sindhis in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. Reading about Sheila's entrepreneurship and life in general at the Ulhasnagar camp brought back vivid memories for me. I had seen several women supporting their families with whatever work they could do, or indeed by starting cottage industries from their homes. One of our neighbors in Ahmedabad camp would make sugar candies and chocolates. As kids, I would occasionally join other kids to wrap the chocolates. For a certain number of chocolate wrappings, we would earn 5-10 paise. Sheila's story as an entrepreneur is the writer's tribute to the role of Sindhi women in resettling the Sindhis in India. Sheila not only starts the business but also employs other Sindhi women to help the business grow. Sheila's resourcefulness and business acumen to manage people, money, and marketing of biscuits are lessons in management and entrepreneurship. Sheila and the community around her, including friends Mohan and Kamla, find solutions to feeding newly born baby in Janki, who was breastfeeding her son. She agreed to feed Anjali, the baby, for 1 rupee per day. One may question Janki's morals, but such behavior born of greed or need is also a fact of life. The virtues of kindness and compassion coexist with greed and selfishness in society. The writer demonstrates different shades of humanity that manifest through different characters in the book. The hard-working Sindhis in camp were fighting for survival, and there were no avenues for education, entertainment, or cultural activities. Sheila and her friends demonstrate indomitable spirit and set up a primary school led by Kamla. An interesting story about bringing mobile cinema in the camp is told whereby Sheila approaches a successful Sindhi businessman, Nanak Motwane in Bombay, famous for Chicago Radio Company. Sheila approached him to arrange viewing of Hindi films in the camp, which might offer some moments of relief and relaxation to a community that was crumbling under the burden of making livelihood with very little social and financial capital in the camps. Nanak Motwane delights the community by arranging a screening of good films in community areas. Again, this brought back my childhood memories of watching movies in the makeshift cinema on 6 by 6 feet screen in the garden cum open gym we had in Nagar camp, Ahmedabad. The author brings the camp life alive through her simple but arresting narrative. The non-Sindhi readers would be educated about the trials and tribulations of a displaced community that was simultaneously trying to survive and keep its heritage going. No person is an island. In a complex social, economic, and political reality landscape, one navigates life and discharges the responsibilities it requires not only personal commitment and devotion, but all the skills, guidance, information that make it possible to choose, to act, and to make things happen. Mohan plays a vital role in Sheila's life. Firstly, he is her emotional support in difficult times. Their relationship comes almost a full life cycle from getting acquainted on the steamer ship journey from Karachi to a friendship to a passionate romance to two souls becoming joined by their love for their family members and wider community. He is Mr. Dependable for Sheila. Mohan is a strong character with his own views on life, but who gives full space to Sheila to flourish as a businesswoman who goes on to successfully launch not one Madhuri biscuit business but even bigger business to make cookies in honor of actually Mohan, which you should read in the novel why it is branded as Mohan, a delightful food item that gets exported globally. He supports Sheila completely but does not join the business and goes on to join Indian Army. Theirs is a relationship of equals. To author's credit, throughout the book one gets sense of empowered women and gender respect that is depicted through relationships and characters, including that of relationship between Suresh, one of Sheila's brothers, and his wife Sindhu, who becomes equal partner in his business later. But to complete the loop on Mohan and Sheila's relationship, the relationship gets a severe jolt unexpectedly and once again tests Sheila's patience and courage to face life without her friend, philosopher, and guide Mohan. Suresh's character is almost a contradiction to that of Mohan. Suresh does not like going to school. He is impatient and independent. He is adventurous. He is a street smart salesman. He is a risk taker. With these qualities, one cannot avoid mistakes. But at the same time, one creates opportunities. Microcosm of Suresh's personality is many times also attributed to Sindhi community as a whole, who are seen as risk takers, traders, and business community that ventures in all walks of life. Particularly inherent commercial risk is there, for example, film industry where Sindhis have made huge contribution to Hindi cinema industry in India. Suresh finds opportunities to go to Africa, Hong Kong, and before long into Europe. Starting with modest assignments in corner shops of Sindhis in Africa, he goes on to partner with a successful Sindh workie in Hong Kong and moves from trading in general commodities and groceries to diamonds and sets up massively successful enterprise in which his wife Sindhu, daughter of the Hong Kong-based Sindhi businessman, becomes a partner as designer of the jewelry. In Suresh, one gets glimpse of what it must have been to be Sindhwarki traveling outside Sindh and trading globally. Sindhis who left Sindh after partition did not get a separate piece of land to resettle, but adopted mentally world as their home. Wherever they have settled, they have retained and sustained Sindhiyat in their own way. Kamla and her friend, who would be her husband, grow the primary school set up in camp into a junior college. Kamla's innovative teaching methods and leadership skills are at full display throughout. She is also an able administrator who later takes over business responsibilities from Sheila for one of the enterprises that Sheila had set up. Their success in developing and managing business in competitive world reminds how author has woven the woman empowerment theme throughout this novel. At the same time, the character of Anjali, Sheila's youngest sister, demonstrates youthful insecurity and vulnerability, falling prey to a scheming boyfriend and his mother, none other than who breastfed her as baby. I like the imperfection in the human characters that the writer brings out. It keeps the story grounded in human reality. It leads to tragedies, to unpleasant endings, and disease and death, alongside phenomenal success of Sheila raising her family, setting up businesses, settling her brothers, and second of whom becomes an advocate. Life as it comes is rarely one-way journey. Does not death define life? Does not grief define joy? Does not accident define predictability? There are a lot of twists and turns in the story that makes the book difficult to put down once you start reading. I will close by noting that Sheila's journey in post-partition India, as she arrived penniless, she changed adversities into opportunities and converted opportunities into success through hard work, commercial acumen, patience, emotional intelligence, and pragmatism. If you know a bit about history of the Sindhi community outside Pakistan in past 7 decades or so, you may find this applies to the community as a whole. Sheila's story is not different from the community she represents. I hope this has inspired you to get the book and read it if you have not done so already. Thank you, Dr. Subhadra Anand, for telling a story for the current and future generations of Sindhis and everyone. I hope you like this podcast. If you want to hear more, please subscribe to the podcast. You can find it on the YouTube and various podcast um, programs on Google and Apple and other platforms. Thank you.